Momentum is visible, but boundary is older. The monthly structure continues to define the outer field of interaction. February's monthly candle remains unfinished. Its current shape cannot yet define completion. The 20 Bollinger Band on the monthly time frame is beginning to tilt slightly downward. The slope is subtle, not aggressive. A shift is forming, but not yet confirmed through duration. The February candle is interacting just below the lower 20 Bollinger Band. It has formed a lower shadow beneath that boundary. Price has lifted slightly back inside and paused. That lift is modest. It is not expansive. It remains incomplete. Because the monthly candle is still developing, its lower shadow cannot yet define acceptance. Persistence has not been measured across the full month. Duration remains unknown. The 4 Bollinger Band on the monthly time frame remains separated from prior compression. Expansion occurred earlier. Now amplitude moderates. Monthly bodies are smaller than during the prior acceleration phase. Upper shadows extend intermittently. Lower shadows stretch but fail to sustain continuation. The 20 moving average on the monthly chart remains above current interaction. Distance to that mean persists. Price has not demonstrated sustained acceptance near it. The monthly layer is not relocating. It is processing near its lower volatility boundary. Weight remains above. Inside that broader boundary, the weekly structure negotiates. The weekly candle continues to trace the descending sky blue trendline. That slope has defined interaction for multiple weeks. Structural gravity persists. Price remains near the lower 20 Bollinger Band on the weekly time frame. It rides the boundary rather than expanding decisively beyond it. Containment continues. The lower weekly 20 Bollinger Band slopes downward at a pronounced angle. The upper band has flattened noticeably. Asymmetry defines the range. The 4 Bollinger Band on the weekly layer remains widely separated. Short-term volatility expanded rapidly during the decline. Separation has stabilized but remains broad. The upper 4 Bollinger Band approaches the upper 20 boundary. The lower 4 Bollinger Band extends beyond the 20 lower edge. Short-term expansion exceeds mid-term containment. Weeks earlier, interaction occurred near the 120 moving average. Continuation toward the weekly 20 moving average failed. That failure redefined weekly balance. Distance from the 120 moving average remains visible. Attempts upward shorten. Persistence does not develop. Yet recent weekly candles show contraction. Bodies narrow compared to earlier impulse phases. Ranges overlap more frequently. Volatility no longer accelerates. It circulates. Processing replaces momentum. The weekly structure negotiates beneath monthly weight. The February monthly candle remains unfinished overhead. Duration will define its final form. Compression develops beneath asymmetrical expansion. The monthly lower 20 Bollinger Band has begun to tilt slightly downward. The slope shift is gradual, not aggressive. February remains unfinished. The current monthly candle continues to hover near that lower boundary. Its lower shadow extends beneath the band. Price has lifted slightly back inside and paused. That pause is temporary. Duration has not yet formed. Completion requires time. The 4 Bollinger Band on the monthly time frame no longer widens rapidly. Separation from prior expansion persists. But acceleration has moderated. Monthly volatility is no longer explosive. It is redistributing. Processing replaces impulse. Within that containment, the weekly structure negotiates. The descending sky blue trendline continues to define structural gravity. Each weekly approach toward it compresses. Continuation above it fails to persist. The 20 moving average remains above the 120 moving average on the weekly layer. Distance between them remains visible. The separation still defines structural weight through time. That alignment does not create acceleration. It defines hierarchy. Hierarchy defines duration. Price continues to interact closer to the weekly 20 Bollinger lower boundary than the weekly mean. Overlap increases across consecutive candles. Compression develops beneath the trendline. The lower weekly 20 Bollinger Band maintains a downward slope. The upper band remains comparatively flat. Asymmetry narrows slightly. This narrowing reflects deceleration, not relocation, not reversal. The 4 Bollinger Band on the weekly time frame remains widely separated. Short-term volatility is still elevated, but amplitude no longer expands. Expansion without persistence does not relocate structure. It produces oscillation. Oscillation consumes time. Recent weekly candles show reduced body size compared to earlier decline phases. Upper and lower shadows extend more frequently. Range contracts inside prior extremes. 3 to 4 weeks cluster within overlapping territory. Vertical displacement slows. Temporal density increases. Attempts toward the weekly 20 moving average shorten in duration. Interaction forms. Continuation fades. The prior engagement near the 120 moving average remains structurally relevant. Distance, since that interaction has not materially closed. Re-engagement lacks persistence. Compression beneath structural gravity increases tension. Movement becomes smaller. Time accumulates. Monthly weight contains weekly structure. Weekly slope defines interaction inside that containment. Short-term volatility expands and retracts within those boundaries. No decisive relocation forms. No sustained acceptance develops. The weekly structure continues to process inside the unfinished February monthly candle. Daily behavior unfolds inside the compressed weekly range. The weekly lower boundary defines immediate containment. Daily candles oscillate within that space. Range remains limited. The 20 moving average on the daily time frame slopes downward. The 120 moving average remains above price. Distance continues to define hierarchy. Attempts toward weekly mid-structure shorten. Interaction forms near prior weekly anchors. Continuation fades within several sessions. The daily 20 Bollinger Band narrows modestly. Slope remains downward, but less steep. Volatility redistributes inside compression. Short bursts of daily expansion widen the 4 Bollinger Band. Separation increases for brief periods. Compression follows quickly. Lower shadows extend during pressure phases. Upper shadows appear during brief recoveries. Bodies remain moderate in size. Engagement lacks duration. Persistence remains scarce. Acceptance is not sustained. Daily interaction continues beneath the weekly descending trend line. Each approach toward that slope compresses. Continuation does not extend beyond short bursts. Overlap increases across sessions. Range tightens. Energy circulates inside containment. The unfinished February monthly candle still defines the outer boundary. Its lower shadow remains provisional. Completion has not formed. If monthly persistence above the lower band develops, structure will register duration. If not, interaction remains temporary. Time must complete the candle. Until then, weekly compression beneath slope and daily oscillation inside range continue. Short-term volatility expands and retracts. Processing continues beneath layered structural weight.